presentation, years 2019 to 2020. And we are going to let our budget director,
Hi.
Yes.
Hi,
How you doing?
can you hear me?
Mr. Manager?
Yes.
I think an
Okay.
introduction was due.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to go through that right
Oh.
now, sir.
okay, so I'll turn it over to the manager who will turn it over and kind of give us an idea of what the agenda is or the
Right.
protocol for this evening.
So, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, or Vice Mayor, excuse me. Today is our, as we've always done, our public workshop. The purpose of the workshop is really for us to go through some of the high-level assumptions that we're using to prepare the budget for you, but more importantly, to get feedback, preliminary feedback from the council on priorities, budgetary priorities, so that we can finish assembling the final first draft of the budget. Per the communication that I sent to you a day or two ago, after tonight's hearing, we will take those assumptions, finalize the budget, and have a detailed budget book presented to each of you by July 31st. And then, as you approved last night, our first and second budget hearings will be September the 3rd and September the 17th. This is Rosalind Morgan, our budget director. Consistent with the memo that I sent a day or two ago, she's going to walk you through some of the high-level assumptions that we've already started using. She'll talk through some of the operating reductions we're recommending internally, and kind of give you a sense of where we are. But as of right now, we do have a balanced budget plan, if you will.
Just if you allow me, Madam Vice Mayor and Mr. Mayor. So just the process.
Not a regular council
No,
meeting
I understand.
anyway.
Yeah, so that's why I want to understand the process. So the process is really presentation by Ms. Morgan
Mhm.
and answer, question and answer Q&A from us
from-
to you guys.
Correct. Or really not some
just-
Q&A
yeah,
or
clarification or
just
direction.
straight direction.
Okay,
I
got
want
it.
this included. I want you guys to include this, that,
Kind of,
and
okay.
so
And then
that we can continue finalizing the
since
budget.
we will be on vacation, would you be emailing this
Yes,
to
I
us?
will do two things. I will send it electronically. I will also hand deliver a copy as well, and it will be made
Because
available to
I
the
remember
public.
last year we had issues.
And we don't have that this year.
Okay, all right.
We're
Not Saturday
way,
delivery.
We're way, and we're
I'm-
remember we're way
If
in
it's
advance
the
right now.
31st, I'm just trying because I'm not going. I don't plan to be here in the country, so I'm just trying to figure
Okay.
out what do I need to do to make sure that I receive it and
Okay.
just at least have access to it.
Okay, I'll make sure
Alright,
you have
thank
it. And like I said, we will, like we did with the presentation, we're trying to be more transparent with the public, and so we made it. The presentation's already on the website, so it was there. We posted it day
So-
before yesterday.
I did receive some constituent regular input, but this is not a public.
No,
Got
no,
it.
it's
Okay,
not a public
just so
hearing.
we know
This
and they
is
all know.
just
Got it.
So we
Thank
can
you.
give you the high level presentation, get some feedback from you, and continue
you.
working on the budget. So
The
with that,
residents don't get to talk,
no, not for this one.
but you didn't tell them that. They didn't know. They didn't
This
know.
is the same way. This is
We thought it's
procedurally
like
the
a
same.
workshop where people can,
I
want
mean-
the feedback from us, from the audience,
If you
about the budget.
if
Yeah.
you want to allow for them to make comment, that's fine with me.
I would
but
prefer that
Okay.
because myself, if I have an issue, I can address that with you and put it in the
Okay.
budget.
that's perfectly
I
fine.
think what we are doing is to allow them to tell us what they would like to see in our budget,
Okay.
and so we can take that
Let
in
me-
consideration, whether we agree or not. That's what I thought.
Okay.
Well, the only thing that I would have, I told them not to come because I did not know that they would be talking, and I did receive some stuff in writing.
Okay.
So, and I see mostly staff here with maybe 4 or 5 residents. So I'm just saying
Okay.
it because I don't know if it's fair to other people who would
No,
have
I
been
just Okay.
I'm just saying, I
just
don't
thought-
mind, but that's
And
fine.
let me add to that. If we are open to receiving electronic communication, if people want to send that, I've had some things already shared with me from some constituents about things that they'd like to see in the budget. But those will be things I talk to you individually about as we finalize the process.
But if it's that case, we didn't have to call it public meetings,
No.
workshop, where I
Sir,
could just.
it has to be a public meeting for you all to have a discussion
Discussion
about
about
this because
the-
of sunshine. And the other thing is,
No, I'm not talking about with council member. I'm talking about with the administration.
right,
Yes.
but you were saying, why would you notice it for the public?
Oh no, not for us. I'm talking about a budget workshop. I thought it was for the public to.
No, so let me ask, I'm just ask the manager because I don't know. How was this noticed? What notice was given to the public about this meeting?
It was posted on our website that we're having a budget workshop like we always do.
Okay, so it was not, so I'm concerned about what Councilman Desmarais just said. We're creating an issue for ourselves if we told the public that we weren't entertaining comment from the public, and now we're entertaining comments from the public. There are probably individuals who did not come to this meeting tonight because they felt they weren't gonna make comments, and so you're creating a liability for the city. So that's the only issue that I have. I mean, if we're gonna do a public meeting, then we should notice it as a
Close it.
public meeting. If we did it last year where the public didn't speak, and that's the way we're proceeding, we probably should not allow people to speak today, because anyone who did not show up tonight is gonna have an issue with not being able
But
to be here.
I understand that, but there's another issue. What about to those who's here tonight, thinking that based on
They wouldn't have been.
the notice you did not specify, they will not be allowed to talk.
No,
The
we know,
notice?
but we never.
What the notice?
The notice states North Miami residents are invited to observe a workshop discussion between the
Okay.
mayor, council, and city staff about the development and priorities of the city of North Miami's fiscal year 2019-2020 preliminary budget.
Okay, thank you. I did not know that. Okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Clerk. The floor is yours, Roslyn.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Okay. As the manager said, that we're here to discuss the 2020 budget. And the topics for discussion tonight.
Is your mic open, please? Your mic.
I'm sorry?
Your mic. Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. All right. The topics for discussion tonight include the 2020 budget timeline, millage rates, ad valorem tax revenues, and other general fund revenues, the preliminary general fund budget, and the recommended increases to sanitation and stormwater rates, 2020 budget highlights, and finally, your budget priorities. And here's the budget timeline for development of the budget. June 1st, we received the preliminary tax roll from the property appraiser. July 1st, we received the certified tax roll, and we incorporated those revenues into the budget. On last night, you set the tentative millage rate at 7.5, and tonight is the budget workshop. And no later than August 4th, we will be sending the property appraiser information on our tentative millage rate and budget hearing dates. On August 24th, tax notices are sent to homeowners, and that notice includes the budget hearing date. On September 3rd, we'll hold our first budget hearing. At that time, you'll adopt the tentative millage rate. And on the second budget hearing, you will finally, on September 17th, we'll hold our second budget hearing, and you'll adopt the millage rate and the 2020 budget. Okay. This chart provides information on taxable values, millage rates, and property taxes. Since 2016, property tax values have improved by 41%. Property tax revenues are expected to increase by $2.5 million, or 11% in 2020. The majority of this growth is included in the city's community redevelopment area. As a result of the city's contribution to the community redevelopment area, the transfer to the CRA will increase from $3.9 million to $5.3 million, a $1.3 million plus a jump. This growth does not include Solomia and Costco Construction, which did not have certificates of occupancy as of January 1, 2019. The city's millage rate has remained constant since 2016, which means that property tax revenues have increased each year due to increased property values. This next chart compares our current millage rate to a rollback rate of 6.934. Again, the current millage rate of 7.5 generates $2.5 million in gross property tax revenue more than in the previous year. A rollback rate, of course, of 6.934 reduces our property tax revenue by $1.7 million. And the rollback is a rate that will generate about the same amount of property tax revenues as approved in the prior year. Okay. And this chart is a 5-year comparison of our revenues from 2016 to 2017. And I'll just briefly go into the increases from the 2019 adopted budget to the 2020 preliminary budget. Ad valorem taxes, again, are expected to increase by 11%. Licenses and permits will increase by 44% due to increased permitting fees for new construction, including Solomia and the University of Miami Medical Facility. Intergovernmental revenues will increase primarily due to $325,000 in sales tax revenue from the state and another $209,000 in local government half-cent sales tax. The 40% increase in charges for services is due to a recommended rate increase in sanitation fees, which will generate about $1 million, and we'll talk about that later. For fines and forfeitures, the 2019 adopted budget inadvertently double counted some code compliance revenues by a little over $300,000. So when we adjust that number, the decrease is actually, the decrease was actually $50,000, and that was due primarily to a reduction in building permit penalties. The 55% increase in miscellaneous revenues is due to $1.8 million in additional franchise fees identified during an audit of Waste Pro. During an audit of Waste Pro and revenue from the Biscayne Landing lease. The audit of Waste Pro covered a 3-year period from 2016 to 2018. Non-revenues are being reduced because there is no rollover from the prior year. And the next slide basically is a graph of those revenues over a 5-year period. And you can see that how our ad valorem taxes have grown and how we've had the ups and downs in the other revenues. Oh, sorry. That's the graph. Sorry about that. And again, this shows how our ad valorem taxes have grown and the shifts in other revenues. The next slide is another 5-year comparison of our expenditures. Okay, on our salaries, and I'll briefly give you some explanations for those. The salaries are increasing primarily due to a $1.6 million increase by the police department, and that includes additional positions, overtime, merit increases, and the 2% COLA. Citywide pension costs will decrease by $1.4 million in next year. This includes a $1.1 million savings to the general fund. The health insurance savings is due to reduced premiums. In 2019, the higher premium amount was budgeted because the contract with the vendor was approved after the budget was adopted. So we are realizing some savings in the 2019 budget of about $250,000, as well as in 2020, and that amounts to about $343,000. Worker comp expenses, These are the interfund transfers to our risk management division for its operating expenses. And the reason why that is going up is because their reserves are down a bit. So when your reserves are down, then we have to up the amount of transfer to the from the departments. Did I? Oh. Okay. And that's, again, here's another graph, another 5-year graph that compares the actual expenditures with our preliminary budget. Okay. This next slide is another 5-year comparison, and it's by department. Okay, it's by department. And the comparison is from the adopted budget for this year and the preliminary budget for next year. And basically, the numbers in red, those are required, either 100% or a portion thereof of required reductions that must be made by the department in order for us to get to a balanced budget. Okay. And there's another comparison by department. So that starting with the mayor council and ending with the purchasing department, that gives you an idea of where the money's going. Okay, next are our sanitation fees that I want to discuss. We are, if you take a look at the two charts, right now we pay Waste Pro a total of $356.68 per year per customer. Okay, the customer pays $254.40. Okay, that's a difference of $102.48 that the city pays on behalf of the customers. That equates to $1 million a year. Okay, residents.
Sorry, Ms. Morgan.
Sure.
So that number is 1,027,000.
27,000.
I see it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's 10,000 customers times the 102.48. Okay. Now, the residents receive twice per week garbage pickup, weekly bulky trash pickup, and also recycling for that $356.88. But they only pay $254.40. The $1 million subsidy paid to Waste Pro has contributed to the city's financial deficit, and I want to make that clear. It has contributed to the city's financial deficit for the last 3 years. Okay, if you do the math over a 3-year period, that equates to $3.1 million, which represents 38% of the deficit. And I think that. Okay, we are recommending the monthly sanitation rate be increased by $8.54 from $21.20 to $29.74. The increase averages 28 cents per day. And if you look at the chart above, on the second chart, the cost per day is 98 cents. Cost per month, $29.74. Cost per quarter, $89.22. And finally, the cost per year is $356.88. The next slide is on stormwater utility. We're also recommending an increase of approximately $39 per year for our stormwater fee, and that's to fund critically needed stormwater improvements in the city. Okay, the recommended increase includes $1 million in revenue, which will be dedicated solely to stormwater capital projects, And this increase, we have incorporated this increase into the preliminary budget. Yes. Okay. And again, this $1 million will fund critical projects in all council districts.
Just to make one point on that, keep in mind, stormwater is in a enterprise fund, so this doesn't have a general fund impact.
Right.
This is literally our infrastructure, related to our infrastructure.
Okay. Current stormwater revenues, right now, we're not able to do any capital projects with the stormwater revenues that come in. The current revenue basically funds operating expenses, maintenance, and any repairs to the existing system, and any support activities. Okay. This increase will allow the city to leverage that $1 million and secure additional revenue through grants. So we could potentially increase that $1 million by 25 to 50% by getting additional grants. Okay, which would give us more money to make more improvements. Okay, and this is a chart of, this was the 2012 master plan study that was done of our stormwater system, which basically, this was done, in 2012. And it basically states that we need to make $58 million in improvements over a 50-year period. This equates to about $1.16 million a year, which is what we're requesting to do. Okay. Also, before we want to make sure that we have the correct number. So, and that increase is based on ERUs, or equivalent residential units. So we want to make sure that we're working with the right number. So, and we believe we are, but what we'll do, we'll revisit it, and we will make any adjustments as needed before the first budget hearing. Okay, and budget highlights. Okay. State law requires the city to prepare a balanced budget so that revenues and any prior year surplus are equal to expenditures. As the budget director, that is my job. So therefore, what we've done, we have incorporated $8.6 million in reductions into the budget to bring us in line with the revenues that we have. These reductions include an across-the-board hiring freeze, which equals $2.6 million, elimination of 16 part-time parks and recreation positions for $300,000, some other reductions of $158,000, and finally $5.6 million in reductions that will be identified by the department. We will start meeting with departments on tomorrow, and they will be given a number, and they have to bring us back a plan that gets to that number, or else we won't balance the budget. But we'll get there. The fiscal year, the 2020 budget also includes $5 million in reserves as required by ordinance. And we've also set aside another $1 million in reserve, which we're going to dedicate to reducing the deficit, and we will do that each year. And $254,000 for the 2020 census. Our overall pension costs will decrease by $1.4 million in 2020. This includes a $1.1 million savings to the general fund. And again, as I stated, the $1 million in stormwater increase has been incorporated into the budget. The 2016 capital financing plan for the city's water and sewer facility, completed by a consultant in 2016, is being updated. And we will also be recommending an increase in water and sewer rates. What we want to complete, we want the consultant to complete the study. Yeah. It's water and sewer. Okay. Yeah. We want we'd like the consultant to update the study so that we can make sure that we're working with accurate numbers. And we will come back to you in January of 2020. Oh, sorry. Okay. And we will come back to you in January 2020 and present you with our recommendations. And finally, for my presentation, I just want to just sort of summarize the two increases that we're recommending now, and that is the sanitation increase and the stormwater increase. And again, you see that for both increases, that equates to 39 cents a day, 11.81 a month, 35.42 a quarter, and $141.61 a year. And that's what we're recommending. And now we'll be discussing your priorities, and thank you.
It's whoever wanna talk. Yeah,
Well,
it's
Scott not here.
it's-
Madam
not in
Vice Mayor, you want to go first, or you?
Yeah, where's Councilman Galvin? I think we should all be here so we can hear what,
He's somewhere around. He probably think.
I have a question for our budget director, Ms. Morgan. We're proposing to increase the stormwater 3919. Can you tell me what the total will be after the increase, please?
Yeah, it'll be close to about 4 million. For the stormwater?
The annual stormwater?
Yes.
The new number would be $113.47.
Okay.
Here, this is the total amount.
Where's Scott?
They said he just walked in. Someone.
Huh?
Rose said he just walked in. I mean, I have a couple of, but she said it's good. We wait for Councilman Galvin. Go. You'll just. Do we go or? Like, okay.
I mean, okay,
The total amount
I have
You
a
should go.
list.
The total revenue
I'm
is
sorry.
$4 million.
No, I meant per household, the stormwater,
Oh, okay.
11347.
Okay.
I know we need it, and I was wondering how it compared to the county. Do you know what the county stormwater is?
No.
I've tried to look it up.
It's 469.
Oh.
It's 469.
Couldn't find it on any tax bills, and it's billed separately, so I was just,
You're talking about stormwater and sanitation?
no,
From the
just storm,
county.
the county bills the stormwater separate from the taxes. I was just wondering if we had that figure, just for comparison.
Hello? Okay. Yes, according to the FSA Stormwater Utility Report from 2018, Miami-Dade County, the rate is $4.
$4 what? What's the annual cost of stormwater in the county?
That would be that's their ERU, their equivalent residential unit.
That's
So
$4
is that-
per month, right? Or is
No, it's not a monthly rate.
It's for you. They got 2
It-
million people.
It's gotta be
There-
at least $66, $70, but I was just wondering, because I can't find it.
Yeah, I don't have that information. I only have their ERU rate.
I'd like to
We'll convert it for you.
yeah, I'd like
We'll
to-
convert it.
find what that is. Okay, you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if you're allowed, I'll.
I
go
have,
next.
I have some requests for the budget. I have some requests that will not make a lot of people up here happy, but I tried to do this last year. I see for some reason, and this is in my own department, everybody else is scrimping on their department, and for some reason, I see that the mayor and council went up about $300,000 increase for the budget.
That's really, so on that line item,
Mhm.
it's not really an increase. We shifted
You should-
the discretionaries from the non-departmental into to the office budget. So
Okay.
it's not an increase.
Okay, thank you. So, okay. I would like to see more detailed income revenue sources, not just per department. I noticed last year when I did go back to look at the budget, it was like, I noticed that I hadn't really seen where all the money was coming from. We've made estimates. I've always relied on the departments. They say they're gonna have $1 million here and $1 million there. I think our we've always, and I've always for the last 15 years, looked at the expenses and really expenses, but I also wanna see where we're showing we have the income. So I wanna make sure that we do have the income. So that's something I would like to see in our budget. I would also like a little breakdown so we see what is non-reoccurring revenue sources. I know in the past, we used some non-recurring revenue for our budget, and then after that wasn't reoccurring, we didn't have it again, we'd already raised our budget because we had assumed we had that money. So I would like that non-reoccurring revenue to be broken down. I believe we're doing this, but I'd like to see in our budget a line item for general fund deficit reduction. So I know that we're putting a lot of our income, instead of spending it, we are gonna apply it towards the deficit, so I'm looking for a line item there.
So if I can address that real quickly, we're budgeting for the $1 million to address the deficit. It'll be in the non-departmental area in the budget, so we'll break it out, but it's kind of it's included with the reserve number.
Okay, so it should be a
So-
deficit reduction, not something that we can turn around and spend afterwards.
Correct.
Something petty, I brought this up last year. We each, council, we have 2 full-time aides in our office. We also have the, mayor's aide who always helps with everybody else's. We have 29 hours. I think we could save about between $40,000 and $50,000 if we each took or shaved $9 off the, our aides. I don't know why we really need 29 hours a week. And I know Council Galvin says he doesn't need an aide. So I'd like to see that. I mean, if we're trying to shave some money, I'd like to shave some money there. Something very important to me that I requested last year, and something I was under a misconception, and I know our the residents want it. I would like to reduce our discretionary fund. I'd go down to 20, but I would like to reduce our discretionary, that $50,000 number, by at least half. And I would like it to be used for capital projects or tangible assets. We have 2 different discretionary funds. We have a 50 and we have a 7,000. If the 50 was meant to just be giving away, using it for events, using it for not-for-profits, all types of adding it to whatever, churches, whatever, then it should have all been lumped together. When we first decided on this about 3 years ago, the mayor wanted to do capital improvements to the city. I was all for that. So I think that discretionary, that big number, needs to be for capital improvements. You need sidewalks, landscaping, someone needs a light. You really need to put some brick and mortar in our city. That's great, and I think we should be able to do that. But that 50, we should not be borrowing from that discretionary to be giving away to people. This is the taxpayers' money. And I look at the numbers, and we are just really giving away too much. I'm sorry. So I would like to see that whatever we put in the discretionary, in that chunk, be for tangible. And we did discuss, and I'm going to bring it back up in case we want to have it for a discussion, that anything we spend over $5,000 in our discretionary can go to council vote. It's not our money. It's ours to use for our districts, but I think we should kind of get our blessing if it's over 5,000. It's something to think about.
Repeat it again.
So we have a discretionary of whatever amount we decide on our discretionary. If we're going to spend more than 5,000, it's a 5,000 landscaping, it's 5,000 for street improvements, 5,000 for a piece of art. I've done tiki huts, things like that. If it's going to be more than 5,000, then I think the rest of the council should have the ability. It is taxpayer dollar. It's not our personal slush fund. It's not ours to just dole out like we see fit. And it's my recommendation. I'd like to see the clerk outreach number go down considerably. Looking at that, tremendous amount of money went out to radios, individual people. I don't think we need to do that, and this is the time that we can do that. Something I'm very, I see you have a plan. We do need new sewers. So I'm and I know we've got money coming in for stormwater, but I would really like to see our city, and I don't know if this can be budgeted, probably not, but I think it's time that we look at our sewers. They're really old, and I think we need a sewage replacement. We didn't get that in the infrastructure bond, so it's something we're gonna have to look at and find where we're gonna get that money. Another minor thing, last year I asked to reduce the turkey drive from 30,000 down to 10,000. I still think if the council would get together, and this is another plea, I would like the council to work together. Let's do our events together. We're one city. And we don't need 4 or 5 turkey drives. We don't need, during a cultural month, we don't need 5 different parties by 5 different councils. I'd love to see us work together. I know Councilwoman Irvin asked to join me in my Hispanic heritage, and I welcome that. I would like us all to do things together. I've been asking for 4 or 5 years, let's put the turkey drive to 1. We would save so much in parks and time and effort, and I think we have to start consolidating our events because we're way over on that. And I think if we would collaborate and all do things together, it would be nicer and we would save money. Most importantly, we're going to have a budget this year. I think we've gone over budget. I know we've gone over budget. Whatever the budget is, whatever we agree to, that's fine. You go for this budget. But when you hit your budget, that's it. And I would like our manager and our budget director, if I ask for something, or if someone says, I'm going to go spend this money, it needs to be budgeted. And I've been asking every time we get something on the agenda, is this in our budget? When we reach our budget, that's it. I don't know where else we think we're going to get the money. That's why we're running over. We've got to, you get your allowance, you spend it in the first 2 months, or you roll it over. But we have to have that, and I would like, and I know the manager wants direction from the council, but I'm giving my manager direction. If I'm over budget, I want to know and say no. I'll spend what I'm allowed to spend or save it. Lastly, our manager has guidelines for the not-for-profit organizations. We have a few organizations, with the CBO, with federal funds. We have a few not-for-profits that they have to jump through hoops like crazy. They have to be audited. We scrutinize, we spend hours. Should we give 10 to this one? Well, let's give another 3,000. We really spend, and we vet these organizations, and it's really hard. You have no idea. Every day I come to my desk, and I've got a church or a station or a party or an event, and this one's asking for money, and this one's asking for money, and it's really hard, but we do have guidelines. And I think the manager gave them to us, and I don't think we've officially approved them. I know the manager is trying to implement it, but we can't just be giving to all these charities. It's not our money. We can't just pick and choose. I like that church, I like that synagogue, I like this group, this organization. This is the taxpayers' money, and I want guidelines for how we're going to do it. We don't need to give thousands to this church and thousands to that. And basically that's it. I want, whatever our budget is, I want to keep to it. And I would like us to be a little bit more frugal with our spending. Thank you.
Anybody who wishes to speak?
I mean, I have a laundry list
Right.
of things, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
You want to go first? It's a little unfortunate that I hear my colleague, things that we discussed it at a retreat that are being here, because I didn't know that was the purpose, because going through this, the purpose of this was that. However, Let me just share some of my highlights and give some of my recommendations. First of all, you have a council here. We may all represent one city, but we don't represent the same district. So you have different needs from one side to the other of the city. And folks like to talk about we are united, this and that. There's a line of respect that comes to both. Some things that may work for one particular commissioner or council person may not work for another person. And I think that needs to be respected, overall. I do not go and tell someone how to run their staff or, the council aid may work for one person, may not work for the other. If the discretionary money is, which something I fully support, is something that is allocated, each council person has the right to disperse that money how they see fit their particular budget. There are some folks here who have tons of money. That's good for them. There's some, in my case, who have none. So I do not think it's for somebody to go and questioning someone how they spent it, because there's nothing improper about it, because I disperse or give money to organizations that I see that serve my constituents, because there's a lot of programs or different services that the city does not cover. So I do give to certain churches and certain that may be prevent to one community to not. New York City, which is a much larger with millions and millions of folks, cities across the U.S. have discretionary funds. Their discretionary funds is 66 million, but they got 100 and something commissioners, various city. This idea came 3 years ago, and I welcomed it. It's something that that I'm in favor of. If someone want to donate their money, want to do sidewalk in their area, I'm all for it, and I would never stand in anybody's way if it's come to a vote that you want to spend all your money on sidewalk to say not to. We all have that. If you want to give some to me, we will take it as well. I will definitely go for that. But looking at this budget, there was a lot of things this workshop, what was presented. There's a lot of things I feel that we as commissioners could be giving direction to, as opposed to going after one department, because everything that was talked about was about the council meeting, was about the council office, which I do not mind. And Mr. Manager, I've never done this, but hey, since everything is on the table, that's fine. We could sit when it's budget time, we go over departments, because one commissioner might have one idea of how to cut. My ideas is totally different. I do not see that the events which I receive emails and stuff about, I don't have issues with them, and my folks do not have issues with them. So if you do, I understand that. I respectively do that. Do not bring it up to me as far as what I do in my particular district respectively. However, if you want to talk about the bulk of the money of the budget, because I do see some concerns here that I have that are asking my constituents to pay a little bit more, and we could have that conversation. Because obviously, Ms. Morgan mentioned $3 million that was cut out. It's because basically based on us not collecting. So there's ways we have that. I do not like the $8 million deficit that we are. I do have some ideas, and that's what I would like to go over with my presentation of I think it was the last slide, Ms. Morgan, you had mentioned. I do not mind, the constituent has to know, and I'm very for social service, as you know, Mr. Manager, because we really, the reality is, once you pass Biscayne Boulevard, you are in really two different cities. There are some folks on my side who really, I'm constantly calling, either sending emails to the water department, this person cutting water, trying to help them out as much as we can. I understand that, but we have to do what we have to do now that the reality is on paper. We could have that conversation. We need to look at how we're gonna accumulate the amount of money. I believe it's $1.1 million that Ms. Morgan mentioned from the water sewer fee. Is that the stormwater fee? And the other $39 is from what fund is that?
Waste, that
the
would
solid
be-
waste.
yeah.
And then I also heard that there will be a proposal that will be coming in January
Yes.
with more money. So the red flag to me was the residents. How do we, by looking at this department, one thing I saw that I did not really like from the get-go, I saw that we have all of these money that the residents have to pay. I didn't say anything. At the same time, the staffing went up. So that's a concern for me. I do understand. Well, let me review, and then you could correct me because I'm not in
No,
budget.
what I wanted to say was, because if you see in the highlights, we're talking about a hiring freeze, cutting some staffing.
No, I
and
know, but
additional
this is
cuts.
what I'm talking about. The general fund on page 8, that the slide Ms. Morgan has. From the time I got here, we constantly on the salaries been going up, and in fact, we are increasing 1.9 million this year.
Yeah,
So
that's
all of
not
those
new
folks,
staff. That's
huh?
not new staff.
No, I didn't say it was new.
Okay.
I never said that.
Okay.
Because I did understand, and I'm going to talk about the freeze that we talked about. So my concern, and all of y'all outside with these discretionary fund and all of these events, talk about the real thing. So we need to, because the issue that I have, and I just came off the street, and you know what I mean, knocking on doors. The issue that I have is the people who are out there, the constituent that we serve, they don't really get the connection with the city. So obviously, whatever the staff is doing, we need to change the culture where it's aligned more. I don't have any issues with folks working and this and that, but the resident has to be first. So I have a sense that it's not there. So when I saw in 2017, we were at 24 million. And I understand COLA and all these things added up. 2018, it remained 24 million. Last year, it was 27 million. And then this year's 29 million. So right there, that's a line item that I'm looking at. What do we need to do? I'm on page 8, Mr. Mayor. What we need to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You run your shop, Mr. Manager, and
Can I
you
say
understand-
one thing on
yes,
that?
sir.
When you will likely see, and I think where you're going is, we need to look at reductions in that area, or shifting of those resources, I guess is
Yes.
a better way to say it.
I think shifting.
So when we go through when we get with the departments and start going department by department to achieve the cuts that we have in the high level, you will see that shift will be there.
Because that's where, from the cut that Ms. Morgan mentioned, the 1.1, and I guess the other 39 will be $1 million, so that's 2.2 million.
2 million,
correct?
one
2
in
million.
one in the enterprise.
So less than 3 million, 2.5, let's say.
One in the enterprise fund, though.
Yes, and then
And
1.1 from
in
the
in the
stormwater.
for the sanitation.
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 So, based on what she said, I'm here to protect the residents as well as the employees. That 2.5, that's my concern. And we could look at, if we eliminating stuff in the council office, I don't mind. We could have those conversations everywhere. Shifting, I like to say. But we need to make it work. That I would like to see what we could do from, I don't know how we get that number down, that 29 million. And then I don't think, because we only talked about the Parks and Rec staff, the 300,000 for the elimination of the part-time. That's all fine and dandy, but I also need some other folks on there. It should not only be
Yeah,
the part-time.
there'll be other reductions.
Okay.
That's in that number, that big number, the 5.6 million reduction
So-
from the departments. Like I
But
said,
is that part of the, let me ask you, Ms. Morgan, is the 5.6 million already included in,
It is reflected in this number.
Which
but
number?
it's not by department. So
So it's-
on page 8, the 70,196,788.
so the 5 million is already in there?
The 5 million in reductions is in there, but it's not necessarily in the right bucket.
In the
So-
right box?
Yes.
Okay, which I get what you're saying. If we, this is just where I'm going. So we really, you're working with 5.6 million. Can we, how do we get that? If we, the 5.6 million plus 2.5 is about 7.5. Because you are
Increasing rates.
you're increasing rates.
But
So
keep
I'm,
in mind, even with that rate increase, $1 million plus of it is not coming to the general fund. It's in the enterprise fund, and it can only be used for stormwater.
okay, so
capital
not let's
activity.
not talk about
So
that.
not that
So
million, yeah.
1.1 plus the 5.6, so 6 point
million,
something.
yeah.
So I would be comfortable if the 6 point something, where because I don't see how we hit the residents with with 3 fees, and then we still and nothing changed. So if we're gonna do something, and I'm not sure what that fee will be, how comfortable we would, because it's hard out there. I mean, I know the economy working for some, but not for all. It's really, really hard. And we have to come up with this money. So I would ask you and Ms. Morgan if could be very creative on shifting a lot. A lot. I mean, hey, the council office, and you know what? If we need to look at everything,
We are.
you know, and that's fine. I would like to. My goal would be to hit the residents with, okay, we got to increase your thing in January, or maybe that $39. I could see the 39, pass the 39 to them, and then maybe in January, because I'm not even comfortable with that. But all that, no, I'm not really too comfortable with
All
that.
things will be
We'll be
listening and working with you for the rest of the process.
Okay.
To figure out.
Because also, my last point, when I looked at the department, per department, there are some that's way up there, but it's really, it's a little bit hard to understand. So I'll just wait and see other council people. Thank you.
Scott, man,
Be quick. The 3 places, obviously. The 3 places, we made this, I stated this in my council, the workshop that we had, the retreat. The 3 places I'll look to see us making an investment in our city, not limited to, but including these 3 things: affordable housing, sea level rise, and the Solomia Park. So I hope that your budget will include fees in that direction. And thank you.
I'm sorry, Councilman, you just remind me of something. You did ask for priorities, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, and Councilman Galvin just kind of remind me that I'm afraid now of even putting out something because of what I'm asking y'all to do.
Well,
with
we
this,
can.
because this is,
Keep in mind, this is just the first workshop. I make a commitment to work with you via face-to-face meetings, email, whatever those ideas are, get them to me. So by the time we get to July 31st,
okay.
we will have incorporated all of those things into the budget document
budget.
that we provide you with.
And I think I supported what he was saying, but I remember I had some stuff. I don't really, I know social service is one.
And that's
you have
that's the other
those.
thing. I still do have your priorities that you
Okay, that's what
provided me
those
from the
same
retreat.
priorities.
I still have all
And
that
and
stuff.
if for the audience if you have the Mr. Manager for the audience, if you could, somebody have them, it'll be good so that they'll know that what is it on the record. I know it was the social service.
Social services was everybody's kind of general
Yeah,
priority.
general, yes.
Affordable housing was
Affordable,
everybody's
everybody's-
general
But I had,
priority. What was it? Infrastructure was the other one. So the sewers and was another general priority.
climate change, the Carol resilient.
The resilience and the resiliency was the fourth. Those are like
Sea
the
level
4 big
rise.
themes that we had from each of you.
I'm talking about mine.
Yeah, no,
oh,
yours-
okay.
You had the social services. You had the
You
affordable
know-
housing.
No,
It's all written
no,
down.
I didn't have that. I know he had that. But okay, we'll get it. But
Okay.
somewhere around there. Thank you.
All right.
Madam.
So, like have been mentioned already. Affordable housing is big for me. Our Cagney Park, the completion of our Cagney Park is really huge. Improving the West Dixie corridor, I mentioned that so many times so that we can attract economic development on our commercial corridors, starting with West Dixie. I'm sorry?
Cagney Park.
Right, so Cagney Park, affordable housing, improving West Dixie corridor in particular. And I think those were my major priorities. Anything else? Oh, yeah, those are my major priorities for this fiscal year as well.
We all set? I have a question for Madam Budget Director. Based on this book, the manager just stated that you can present a balanced budget based on those numbers.
The numbers here,
Mm-hmm.
the budget is balanced. With
Okay.
the budget is balanced with those reductions already incorporated.
If the reduction is not over the $8.3 million deficit from the previous year,
No,
how will you be able to balance the budget with that deficit carryover expense?
So there's no, and we have to separate the operations from the budget process. And I know I'm always preaching that. From the deficit, that is the results of our operations. That's the negative $8 million number. We're preparing a budget that has to be balanced because of statute, but incorporated in the, I guess, our expenditures, if you will. We are setting aside the $5 million that we have to set aside by our own ordinance, plus an additional $1 million to end operations, so we can actually deposit that additional money into against the deficit of operations or into our reserve, to not be touched, not to be used, not to be rolled over, but to start bringing that number down.
Okay. In order to balance the budget, you predict that tax revenue gonna be increased by 44%, right?
which revenue?
Avalon.
Not Avalon.
No, I think.
Tax increase, you say, tax revenue increase will be increased by 44%.
Oh, you're talking about the licenses and permits?
Yes, you said it's gonna be a total of 44%, and you specify Solemia and the UM project.
Oh, no,
Right.
that's licenses and permits.
Yes, because those are building permits.
And what page are we? You
That's
may
on page
to
six.
specify, page
Yeah.
6, okay.
Those are building permit
Right.
fees.
For licenses and permits, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You think the increase gonna be $2.1 million this year?
Yes, because keep in mind, you've got the University of Miami Medical Facility. That's gonna start they're gonna start on that next year. And there's also the continued construction of Solomia.
Okay,
Yeah, and those are, again, those are based on my analysis and projections, and I've been pretty much on point.
okay, you have $2.1 million from licenses and permits. And you're talking about charge for services, an increase of $1.6 million. Where that increase is coming from?
That's sanitation increase.
Yes.
Okay. You're talking about instead of the $21
Yeah,
gonna
the
charge.
28, the 28, the 29.
Okay, you're using it
Right.
to balance the budget,
Yes.
okay.
A little over $1 million.
Okay, let's see, for example, something happen, right? Solemia doesn't move forward, then we don't have the University of Miami, meaning what? We are $2.1 million behind to balance our budget.
Yes. Well, what,
Lem-
what,
Those are prediction, right?
Yes,
In order to balance the budget, you present a budget with 44% increase in our licenses and permits, right? If for some reason there's a hurricane and now or nothing built, that's when you're gonna have
yeah,
another.
we would have an issue, but we would be able to, I guess in the moment, start addressing it at that
Right.
point.
You will
As-
have if that doesn't happen in 2020, we will increase our deficit.
Not necessarily. If we get to January of next year, and our forecast is showing that money's not coming in, we'll have to make it in the
Right.
moment change to our operations
Right.
to adjust to whatever that revenue deficit
For the
is.
past 3 years, last year, you anticipate that we were gonna close the deal at Solemia. The money did not come in, and that's why we were
We had
able to
$3
talk
million
about that
deficit.
budget deficit.
Correct.
But you didn't do what you just said
Be-
that you are going to do.
Because, sir, in the case of that particular transaction, we were actively negotiating and waiting for them to close. I have tons of communications from them all the way up to the last day where they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna close, we're gonna close, we're gonna close." They even gave they sent me the option. So in that case, you're right. We didn't make an adjustment, but again, I thought through the fiscal year that was coming in, just based on what we were doing. In a
As
case
of
like-
today, you still didn't do the adjustment because that money did not come in.
I have
And-
it's not included in here.
I'm talking about in the 2019, 18-19
We're-
budget,
we're
you
ex-
didn't do the adjustment.
Yeah, we have done an operating adjustment. We're expecting to end this year on budget.
What do you mean on budget? Explain. I don't know.
You guys approved the budget. It's
When
there.
you did the budget, in order to balance it, you anticipate
the
that we were going to
2000
get
remember that
18,
was-
19.
2018 budget.
That budget, that current budget,
The
No.
current budget that we're in right now is on the paper. It's a operating budget of 69.5 million. We're expected to run at that budget. Right as of right now today.
yeah, but when you did present the budget last year,
Right.
you used that money.
No, that money's not in this budget. That was the year before.
I'm not talking about this one.
I know
But
that was in the year before.
What?
What you're referring to happened the year before.
17, 18, not 18, 19.
No,
No.
no. We're in 18, 19 right now.
I know, but you did not balance.
No.
You did not add that money in the 2018, 19 budget. It's
No.
not in there.
It's not there.
Okay. Okay, you're telling me this budget will be the 44% increase that you talked about is only for license and permit, or a total of 44%?
no, it's only for licenses and permits.
Okay.
And that includes occupational licenses, the different types of building permits for plumbing, electrical, mechanical, inspection fees.
A quick question, okay? If you anticipate that we're gonna have an increase of 44% for licenses and permits, and what was the last time you see an increase of 44% in licenses and permits in the previous budget? Because we didn't have nothing on the site. And they were able to build two buildings plus
That's the money
Costco and
that's here.
everything.
Yeah.
Was it for what year?
So you see, if you look at the graphic, you see we had a substantial increase from fiscal 2016 to 2017.
The $1.7 million.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
That's when.
that's when they permitted those buildings.
Okay.